We are back with Messy on Purpose, and I have Lara here with me today, and she is going to do a quick introduction on herself, and then we're going to dive right into this conversation that we don't even know where it's going to take us yet.
So thanks for having me on, Felicia. And so I am a guide. I'm a mom. I have my own business, and I have been on a deep healing journey the last 5 years. We're always on a healing journey, but specifically, a lot of my conscious awareness has happened in the last 5 years, from leaving a steady job to going through the divorce and having a baby in the middle, and then, trying to sort of reinvent and refigure out where I'm going. And now I love working with women and mums, sort of guiding them back into their truth and back into alignment. And that is sort of what I try to embody on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, so that's sort of a little bit about me.
Okay. So let's just kind of start from start to finish. Why not, right? What were you doing? Guiding women. Did you start doing that before your divorce? So if you've been
Yes.
doing that a really long time, how long have you been doing it for?
So I've been self-employed now for 7 years. So yeah, I started back in 2018 when I left my private sector company. And I work with both men and women. I just find it's always fascinating, the women that I get to work with, because they always like mirror either where I've just come to in my own healing journey and awareness, or so like I find like there's a lot more passion and deep rooted, like, yes, like when I'm working with like other women and mothers who, mirror a lot of my own journey.
It's just more of a connection, I assume, like
Yeah,
more
so it's like
common.
I love helping and all people. But there's just, like when you go on your own like healing journey, it's just like there's a lot of things that are so, when we talk about like energies and polarities and all that kind of stuff, there's so much that I learned about myself that even though I can still guide and lead the way for others, it's just so much more, there's so much more momentum and so much more realness and rawness in regards to, even like in my coaching, in my guiding, I pull a lot of my own story into that to give like concrete examples of what it actually looks like, not just conceptualize it. And so, being a female and trying to be in my feminine energy and not in my hyper masculine, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot more, my examples make a lot more sense and weighted sense for the ones that are similar, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I get it because like it's easier to help people when you have like similar backgrounds or similarities in some way, right? Because you're more relatable just in general. It's hard to relate to a guy going through something totally different, but it doesn't mean you can't help them. It's just easier and more enjoyable to help people that you understand better.
Yeah, it's more fulfilling when you can actually pick up all those threads and talk about some like really specific things that are relevant only to women or only to mothers, you know what I mean? Or only to entrepreneurs. So, that's where it's fun to sort of align with the different, groups and communities that, are similar to your own.
When it comes to being a guide, what does that mean? Can you give us a little more clarity on what that means?
Well, like I feel like coaching is more like a personal training coaching type of thing. And I truly guide someone. So, if there is, it's like I can see where the light is at the end of the tunnel. And because of my intuitive capabilities, I can sort of see where their resistance is and I can witness them through the process based on pretty much, if they're not alluding to something, I can sort of say, well, actually, you've mentioned this, this, and this. So it's really about witnessing and guiding as opposed to coaching, because guiding is like, no, like here's the end. Here are all the steps, but you have to walk through it on your own. Like it is your free will, it is your choice. You have to get there, on your own. And so really it's guiding as opposed to, motivating someone along the path. It's guiding someone down their reflection and down their path, as opposed to, that constant hand holding and support. Like there is hand holding and support, but it's not, it's not the same, right? Like everyone has to go on the journey themselves. And there's a lot of things when we start diving into our whys and our shadows and our triggers that, only you can come up with those memories, even though I'm an intuitive and I can sort of say, I'm pretty sure something like this happened in your memory. What was that memory? And then that would, lead them to that thought. But yeah, that's sort of like the difference.
What does that mean to be intuitive? What
so like I'm a psychic medium. So like I do card reading as well as coaching. So when I started my business, I was doing a lot of reading, and then in my readings I was coaching, and then in my coaching I was always channeling. So that's I sort of found like a happy medium to like have both of those. So yeah, that's why I do like intuitive coaching now, or intuitive guiding or leading. But yeah, so that's sort of that. Yeah, my intuitive is like, no, I use cards as tools, and I use different, and I just channel messages. So sometimes if we're in a session, I'll bring up things. I can get to the root of the problem a lot quicker than your typical, life coach or intuitive, because I'm pulling together so many different experiences or modalities in my own training. So yeah, I can get to the root a lot quicker because of my intuition.
And what got you into that? Like, what even made you realize that you could do that?
I mean, like I've always connected with spirit. So like my first like real awareness was when my grandfather passed when I was 10. And it sort of laid dormant there for a while. Like my grandparents passed, and I could feel them and connect with them, and I sort of didn't do anything with it. Even though I do have a girlfriend that I ran into at school drop off, and she's just like, "You're the only one who had," I think it was my 10th or 11th birthday, who had a psychic. Like your mom got a psychic to come to your house, and I was like, "Oh, isn't that like foreseen?" Like I was just like, "That's so funny." She's like, "Yeah, like what 11-year-old has like a psychic come like read them at like a birthday party?" And I'm like, I guess me. Like I guess that's what I've always been about. And then I was going through like a crazy infertility journey, and not crazy. I mean, all infertility journeys are deep, but I was getting pregnant every single month for a year and losing the baby every single month. And we were working with a fertility clinic here, and I didn't know what was going on. So I started working with I branched out of modern medicine, and I was sort of just like, well, like what could be going on? And so I started seeing a crystal healer who was helping me like clear energetically what was stuck in my womb. So in that process of seeing this crystal healer, like I just used to lie on a bed, and she used to put like crystals like all over my body and like ground me and clear me. It was such a beautiful experience. Like I used to look forward to my time with her every week or every second week. And in that process, one of the messages that came through, because she'd also be like, tapped in and channeling. And one of the messages, she's like, well, have you started reading your own cards? Like, I really think that you should start, do you have your own deck of cards? And I said, no. And so I got some and started pulling cards for my own external validation with everything I was processing. And then she's like, you should really start reading people. And I was like, okay. Anyways, I was like, okay. And so I Googled like psychic fairs, and there was like 2 large companies that like toured Canada. And one of them said, I actually have a spot in another city about 2 hours away from where I was. And I was like, okay, perfect. I could go and I could try this and read other people. And if I epically fail, it's okay because I won't know anyone. So I had a girlfriend who lived down there, and I was just like, hey, can I come crash at your house for the weekend? I'm going to do my first psychic fair. So I made like my little makeshift signs and went down and started reading people. And it was such like a beautiful weekend. Like I think I read like 55 people that weekend or something wild. And uh, it was so funny. The organizer, she's like, you need to increase your prices. I was like, okay, right. And so like I was just like one of the big leagues, I guess. And then I left that weekend and I got calls from all the other companies. So it was like that was like my energetic test to see if I was like legit. And then I've just been doing that ever since. So yeah, I sort of like it was one of those things that like I didn't start off small. Like I'm a type of person, I go like 500 million% in everything I do. So it's like, okay, right, you're going to leave this private sector career, this established business, and you're going to launch everything and then create a business. But I'm not just going to go small. I'm going to go do this and, be on this and get all of your certifications. So it's just like everything that I do, I just go for it. And like the psychic fair thing was the same thing. It's just like, right. It's like, most people would start reading like friends and family for like a year or two and then maybe think about doing the fair. I was just like, no, I'm going, it was a high ticket fair. Like the cost to be a vendor was like, not just like your $100 or whatever. I think it was like $500 at the time. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I got like one of the little square tap things and then off I went. So like, I just, I had a tablecloth at the time and I think I got some like angel wings somewhere else, but I had like no signage. I had nothing. And, yeah, the rest is history. That was back in 2018. So, I mean, since then I've read like thousands of people, but like, it's just wild how like it all, and when I say wild, like wildly cool, how it just like unfurls. Like it was something that, yeah, like not related to my schooling, my training, my last profession, like my last career. Like I was just like, okay, let's do this. And I've always been so obviously, because I had a psychic at my birthday party when I was 10 or 11, but like, it's always just been something I've been connected with, but I've never really like grounded it in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like, did anyone else in your family, like, were they into like psychics? Like, what really, like, at 10 made you want to have a psychic, at your birthday party?
I don't really know. That's a good thing to reflect over later. No, like my mom always liked to have readings and stuff like that. And like, she saw different mediums when like, her parents passed, but like it wasn't like a huge thing. It's not like she had cards and crystals and whatever. Like, I don't really know. I don't know if it was like watching Practical Magic. Like, I don't know if it was, like all the things from our childhood, just like that, like Hocus Pocus. Like, I don't know what it was, but like, I just like loved mysticism. Like, I loved that entire world. So it was always something that like fascinated me as a child, but I never really never really was exposed to it. So once again, it's like, when your past lives are just so strong inside of you cellularly that that's what you're doing without really being exposed to it. Like, you're just like, okay, well, obviously it's something that's been ingrained in me like my entire life that, I'm not even like consciously aware of like how present it is. But yeah, that like, why? I have no idea. Great question. It's just like, yeah, I have no idea sort of what, yeah, like it wasn't around. It's not like, some people like, oh, my grandmother used to read like tea leaves and like, you know what I mean? Like there's this like lineage of like healers and like guides. Like I didn't really have that. Like in the grand scheme of things, obviously there has to have been like, you know what I mean? Like it's something from like a DNA basis that like there has to be. And like, my cousin who's more like my aunt, my mom's first cousin, like, like she has intuitive gifts, my mom has intuitive gifts, but my mom hasn't really tapped into them. She's aware of them and readers always tell her that she has gifts, but like it's not like that was something that I really was like brought up around.
It's very interesting, right? Because like I mean, growing up, I never experienced a psychic reading. Like I didn't experience any of that, and like I never knew anybody that did. So it's like for you to have that at 10 with like zero influence around you, that's pretty interesting.
I have to go back and ask my mom what I was watching, really, because like I said, like I
watched those movies too, and I just had never connected that way.
But I was just like I watched them, and I was so ingrained, being like, yes, that is my reality. Like there's so many different things. And now that I understand more like Akashic records and past life stuff and all that kind of stuff, like now when I like look back and be like, oh my gosh, I had such a strong liking to like this movie. There was like another movie about a woman who became a seal, or a seal that became a woman. I don't know what it was. It was, a blockbuster special, and like there was like only 2 boxes on the shelf. And but yeah, so like that movie, and I was like, right, shape shifting. Like not 1 second did I ever question, was that movie real? Like it was just so real to me in a core cellular memory somewhere that like I think, yeah, so it was more like, okay, you want to manifest, this is how you do it, and this is how you put together like your intention, and what do you want to create, and what do you want to call in. Like I always, like I journaled a lot when I was a kid, but once again, like maybe I was like planting those seeds like all along, like, and once again, that could be a memory that's coming from a past life, being like, okay, Lara, you've done this in like 100 past lives before, so why not start early. But yeah, it's been fascinating, because even my own daughter loves pulling a card, loves crystals, like really gravitated towards that. So it would make sense for her to get into it. But yeah, I don't really remember ever being like super exposed to it.
Yeah, because it's very common. So I just had my friend Soul on the podcast, and she's does hair, right? Her daughters do hair. It makes sense, right? Like to like follow your mom's path, but to like take that in such a different path, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so different than like your average person's choices. Like going into hair school is common. Going to college for certain things, very very common. But like something like that, that's so different and so unique. And if there's no like past like introduction to it, it just kind of flowed with you. That's
And
so
I have such a
interesting.
pull to it too. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? Like I think that's the weird, like the really cool part is because like at no point did I ever question, can I do it? Like it's fun, like, you know what I mean? Like I just like did it. And so yeah, it was just like cellular nature
It's
to do it.
it's cool that you jumped right into like an expo too, instead of like doing the friends and family. Like I do think like when people jump straight in, like there is no failure at that point, right? There is
Yeah.
no failure because there's no going back either. Like you are just in it and you got to make it work, and that usually pushes people to move forward a lot faster. If you start slow with like friends and family, sometimes you never get out of that comfort zone because that's where you're comfortable doing the thing.
Well, and the hard thing too is like there's so much tied to your friends and family that sometimes too, like even when I'm currently like reading, my story aligns with their story. So there's only so much that I can read into because it affects me as well too. And we get intuitive nudges, but that's the whole point, is that we're supposed to just trust and surrender to the universe and, not need to control every outcome and situation. So a lot of times too, when I was reading like friends and family, there's some things that I could read, but other than that, it's meant not for me to be the deliverer of the message because it affects my current situation so much. If that resonates.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So there's a lot of times there's like, I'd love to read this and but that would affect me as well too. So I'm not going to get I'm still channeling through my own knowing and perception. You know what I mean? As opposed to when I'm reading someone else, it's not, I can't distort it based on my own wants and desires and needs. You know what I mean? Like I'm just relaying what information I'm getting.
Do you think in general though, like even like on just a basic coaching, if you're working with like friends and family, it's a little different because you're a little more connected. You might hold back a little bit because you know them a little better. Like you may like sugarcoat a little bit more than you would expect, depending, or be a little too forward.
I mean, like that's like, and that's the other thing is like I've through reading others, if the message comes to me, I need to honor and say it, because you have no idea how it's going to be perceived, right? Like that is like, I have no idea the message that you would need to hear or that someone else would need to hear. So it just, like, I have to say what is being, and a lot of times too, it's like, oh, why didn't I say that? Like it came through and I didn't say that, and that would have, you know what I mean? So a lot of times I've become aware that if it comes in, I'm meant to say it, because if I hold back, I'm like missing half of the message. And then like there's that like gap. So yeah, now I'm more conditioned to say it all. But yeah, at the beginning, it was just like, oh, like I don't really want to say that. And then, but some of the most beautiful readings I've ever done, and got some really specific ones about like, even about like someone passing. Like I remember there was someone who came to see me, and one of her parents was going to pass, and she's just like, nobody will tell me when it's going to happen. And my guides, like however I channel, the message is like, no, he's going to pass here, and this is what you need to get and organized for this. And I was tender, and I held space for her, but I let her know exactly what was going to happen. And it did. And because I told her that, she had the space and the emotional space to also then navigate through that, because she had those specifics that she needed. So it's like, you know what, like very few people I'm going to be like, yes, so and so is going to pass away and this is when. But when those messages come through, if it does, it's because that they need to know for whatever reason. So it's like, I gave her so much freedom by being like honest with what message I was actually receiving, and it allowed her to move forward. And that was a beautiful thing for her.
Was there ever like one that you held back on, that you kind of had to like it sat with you so long that you had to like reach back out?
No. Sometimes it'll be something that comes later, like that didn't get channeled through it. Like cause like sometimes if someone books a reading, like I'll start channeling them like instantly, and I have to be like, okay, brain, like not like it's a week out. You know what I mean? Like I don't want messages just yet. But there's nothing like there's never any regret, because, because I got that awareness early on in my career to share everything, and it was received properly. I've never really held back on a reading. And like when I said like early on, I think I read her for the first time in like 2019. So it was like 3 months after I really started reading people, I came to the awareness. It was like, no, just share it, just like get it out. And so like now, if there's something else that will come up, then I'll sort of say, hey, this message came through after our reading, or, I felt like I needed to pull another card and this is what came up, and I'll share that. But yeah, nothing's ever waited on me that I didn't share.
How does it work to like get these messages, right? Like how does that work?
I mean, I used to use cards. Now more of my cards are like my like walking sticks. Like I don't really need cards, but I can get to the message a lot faster. Like I can like and I use just oracle cards. I don't use tarot cards. But I mean, I just get messages. Like they just like start landing in my head, not in like a different voice, like in my own voice, but like yeah, just stuff about somebody that I would have no awareness of, other than when I consciously decide to like open that.
What's the difference between the cards? You mentioned 2 different cards. I don't know anything about this stuff. So
some are like affirmation cards and different wording and animals, and then one is like based on like a specific numerological like deck, like a normal like card deck. Like there's spades, hearts, like all that kind of stuff. So but yeah, like tarot is very specific to the messages that are attached to the card, as opposed to oracle cards could be anything. It could just be images and no words. It could have no meaning attached to it. Like you can sort of, yeah, it's sort of just like you're like your clues. Like, there's other readers that just have like a box full of like random stuff. And then like each trinket in the box creates like a new message for them. So yeah, you could pretty much channel any way you want, however you want to have fun with it.
So how does your whole guiding process work? Like from start to finish, somebody wants to work with you, like what happens there?
I mean, so it depends on what they want to work on. I mean, definitely, I do one-on-one coaching. I do group containers. I do readings. A lot of times, um, if there were like if we did like multiple one-on-one coaching or guiding sessions, then there'd be like a reading pulled into it, or a lot of times cards are already pulled into it, depending on the homework and the exercises and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so readings are sort of like a one-off thing. It's like, okay, here's the reading, here's the exercise, off you go, as opposed to when there's multiple sessions or multiple times together, then we can sort of pick up on those messages and the exercises moving forward. So it's sort of like we can continue like deep diving, because once again too, it's like everyone's on their own healing journey, and you can't rush healing, and you can't rush awareness, and you can't rush any of that. So sometimes somebody needs 3 months to like pull it through, or whatever the case is. So once again, it's like, okay, well, depending on where you want to go or what you need help with or where you need guidance will depend on what type of like program we sort of create together.
So they're all basically customizable based on the person. And then I know you specifically said that you like working with moms. So what does that typically look like? What do moms typically come to you for?
So, I mean, like our children really catalyst into some self-reflection and some deep self-awarenesses. So like a lot of times, women who are mothers struggle with, their own healing, their own patterning, their own shame, their own guilt. They don't want to project all that on their kids. And so a lot of times, like I created a group coaching container called Parenting from Truth, because even in my own story, there was so much of my own healing that came from like witnessing my reactions to my daughter and navigating like how to be a mom, and like projecting my own trauma onto her. And that's my story. That's not her story. And so, there's a huge responsibility to heal yourself as a parent, so that your children don't carry forward the generational patterns that you have. So that's what I say when it's moms. It's women who are willing and ready to break generational patterns and trauma, and do parenting differently, raise children differently, and in the process heal themselves. So we can't lead if we're not healed. And so, and once again, healing is a lifelong journey. Like it goes round and round and round, but definitely it's something that, it makes a huge difference if the parent is taking accountability for their own triggers, right? Their own triggers, their own shadows. And it allows them to parent in alignment, allows them to be in that soft flowed state. It allows you to, all the things that you were so excited to be a mother or parent about, you get to do that without all the negative stress and self-talk, that's in our own minds.
When it comes to any of your clients, really, is there any like big like success story?
I mean, like it's like it's so different, right? Like from like landing a career that they really want to calling in the next love of their life and getting married, to being able to successfully conceive. There's so many huge yes moments. And I'm so happy that I was a part of their journey. But yeah, pretty much like all the things that you would want as an outcome, right? Like it's like, how to manifest, the person that's going to love you the way that you want to be loved. And like, and, we walked through like a lot of their own healing journey, and it's all happened. Like it's all manifested. They co-created the reality that they wanted. So yeah, from pregnancies to having the job to being in alignment to finding peace to marriage, like to like, and when I say marriage, it's like, okay, first they visualized this person with me when I guided them on a meditation, then this person came into fruition, then we had to calm her nervous system to make sure that she could recognize that this person was the person, and now they're married. So like there's huge, what I want to call it, like exciting stories. Like I don't necessarily want to call it success, but like no, like there's things that really like expand my heart with like how my guidance and sort of like holding that space for them has allowed them to have what they wanted,
Have you
what
ever
seeds
had
they planted.
somebody who said they wanted something, but it ended up being something else that they didn't realize that's actually what they wanted?
That's most of the people. Like, to be honest, like, most people come in with like, okay, I need help here. Or, these pillars are out. And then and because of the work that I do, once you start diving in, like, you're like, well, actually, this is all tied to your self-worth and your self-value. So that's really where we need to focus, as opposed to like the actual outcomes of different things. So like most of the time they'll have like a idea, or they just like know that they need me, but they have no idea where it's going to lead. So yeah, and then we sort of navigate that as more things come, or like if a whole bunch of things come and they're like, I really want to focus on this, we're like, okay, no problem, but in 3 or 4 weeks time, if that comes up again, then we need to dive into that. Just because, like I said, like there's so many pillars in your life. Like, when we start breaking open all the selves, like self-judgment, self-worth, self-shame, self-love, self-value, like all that kind of stuff, when we start breaking into all those different pillars, layers, whatever, when we start breaking into those, one could be attached to romantic relationships, one could be attached to family, one could be how you're showing up with friends. Well, those are huge issues to like unravel all your romantic partnerships, or like, well, that actually stems from your relationship with your dad or your mom. So like it rabbit holes really fast into different areas. And so, and once again, it's always fascinating when someone comes to work with me. They get to decide how far they want to dive. They get to know how far they want to explore. And we go on the journey until we both feel that like, okay, great, you have these tools. Now go live life, right? Like go put them into action. Go see, all those experiences to see now how you navigate, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and then we just pick right back up. Like a lot of times, people will have, a couple coaching sessions, and then I'll see them again in 8 months and we'll do a couple more. And it's because once again, it's like if you were working through like setting up boundaries with your family or unraveling that, and we start working together in February, well, we have the entire year until the holidays again in November, December. So you have an entire year until you actually have to show up and sort of put to action all the things that you've been learning about yourself, and all the things that you want to put into place. So, you still, I mean, there might be a summer barbecue, great, but you have to get to that next family gathering to actually see how you survive it, like how you navigate it. So you can't rush that experience. So, it might be in January 1st. We're like, how'd that go? Like, you know what I mean? But, you still have to allow life to continue to organically play out. And then when you're ready, you'll know that you're ready, and we deep dive again.
Um, is there like, so obviously we want to talk about the mess, right? So in this whole journey, where's the mess lie? What was the difficulties for you? What did you have to overcome?
I think like the biggest thing for me is that you could still be in the process of your own life and still be in power. Like I think, you can still be in the process of your own healing, and you can still be in your own power, be powerful, be present. You can still support people even if you don't have it all figured out. Like one of the beautiful things with my journey is I've always been able to help individuals to the awareness that I've gotten. You know what I mean? So it's like the further that I go, the further I can take people, but you could be in the process. So that's the mess. Like you can be in the process, you can be in the chaos. It's like every day I'm still learning how to parent from truth and how to, calm my central nervous system. And that is something that like I'm consciously putting into action every single day. Like it's not something that I've learned and I'm perfect at. I have the awareness, I'm learning, I can see it, but like it's still real raw and like really messy, like in the trenches. Like I'm still in the trenches every new stage of parenting. I'm in a new awareness. Like you're never at a healed state. Like you're healing, and yes, there's things that have healed, but I mean it's a constant. So like that's a big one. Is that it's still unraveling like all the time, and that's okay.
It is okay.
It is okay. It
As
doesn't
soon
it
as
doesn't
you
have
know
to be
it's
all figured out.
okay. As soon as you
Yeah.
know it's okay, you can actually like face it. I feel like when people try to hide everything, difficult moments or whatever it might be, it's a lot harder to face it because you're keeping it in the shadows and everywhere else in your life except for when you're by yourself in a room. So, I do think that's huge.
And also too, like one of the biggest things is like you can't control how others are going to perceive you. You can't just have this polished version of yourself, like because nobody's polished, no one's perfect. Like nobody's, like I said, nobody's healed. So it's like if you try to embody that, then you're disconnected because no one can actually get to that state. They can witness me, they can hear my wisdom, they can hear my groundedness, they can hear how I've come to this level of self-awareness. But if you are this polished version of yourself that always has it together when most of your time, you're, you know, upside down with life, like trying to navigate it, like that's not right. Like it is about being real, and it's not about being aesthetically all together. And what does that look like? It's about like continuing to like show up and realizing that like you're not in control of anything or anyone like other than yourself. So it's releasing that idea that it has to be polished or there has to be that perfection, because that's all performing. And if we're performing, we're not our authentic self. So it's like, it's better to be in the mess and embrace the mess. And you know what I mean? Like it is, yeah, like it's not clean and clear, and neither is anyone's like journey through this process.
And it's not in the end of the world if you make a mistake. It's something to learn from. It's a lesson through life. Like, if I fall down, I'm going to get back up again. It doesn't matter if it's not pretty the first time or the second time or the 10th time.
No,
Sometimes the
100%.
100th.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think a lot of times too, like like I truly don't believe that there's anything as a mistake. Like, are there choices that lead you down harder paths and easier paths? For sure. Are you going to the end result still eventually? Yes. But like everything that we do is just an invitation to learn, to explore, to have a, broader perspective or awareness. So, like I don't everything that happens, even if like it's cringy and even if you're on the edge of your seat, like watching your own life, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, like it's, you know, it's all meant for your highest good, and everything is sort of like life is truly happening for you, not to you. So it's just taking it one day at a time and sort of embracing it.
I think too, a lot of people miss taking responsibility for your choices, right? Like we have choices in everything that happens. Some things it happen, right? But you have a choice of how you react to how it happens. And I think we miss that. And when we don't take responsibility for our actions and the choices that we make, then we're kind of blaming other people, and that gets you nowhere but in this terrible mindset of just self pity and wallow.
Well, that's the hard thing, right? It's like we can't, like, once again, it's natural. It's always easier to blame everyone else but ourselves. But the reality is the only person that can control how you're internalizing everything is yourself. So it's like, it doesn't serve you to stay in that victim mindset at all. It's like, okay, right, like here is where I've like gone wrong, or like, and I see that even in my marriage with my daughter's father, or like you see that sort of like unfurling. You're like, okay, well, in that divorce, like, I know where I was at, and I could see how I allowed these things to happen. It wasn't a projection onto somebody else. It's like, okay, well, you know, how wounded was I that I didn't see that? Or, how desperate was I that I had no self-worth and self-value, that I allowed this to happen? Or like, so like, and you can sort of look at that in every single aspect of your life, right? It's just like, well, how am I showing up? That's on me. Like what I'm allowing, that's on me. Like the only person that could break your heart is yourself. Like it's like, because it's your illusions and expectations and all the things that you are holding on, that you decided to ignore or compromise on, all these things that you should have never compromised on in the first place, or all the things that you thought you had to give up, or to move forward. So yeah, I think it's really, that's a huge thing, is taking accountability, and that's what everyone needs to end up doing at the end of the day, to get live the life that they want, like live the life of alignment, and really find whatever peace that they're looking for.
And I think a hard thing is, I mean, we have stuff like social media now, right? Like everyone's famous at this point. And everything you put online is who people want themselves to look like. And then like they hide behind that. So now they can't go out, without full done makeup and, cute outfits and doing videos everywhere and like having to be on all the time. And I think that affects it too, right? Like, so you have other people watching that, seeing these perfect lives, and they're like, well, mine just sucks, and it's because of this, and it's because of that, and the negativity that falls within that, right? Have you dealt with people that get in that loop?
Uh like, once again, it's like once you start dealing with like why you perform and your performance, then realizing that you're performing for someone else other than yourself. You know what I mean? Like people stop doing that quite quickly, like, and maybe also too, it's like, and once again, it could be anything, like in relationship and jobs, like whatever the case is. But like, I think I love watching the other creators who are truly in their own chaos, or like in their own like realness, because they're the ones that are actually relatable. Like, you know what I mean? Like the other ones, yes, that's an aesthetically nice life, but that's not relatable to me whatsoever. Like, like my daughter jokes that I have like a uniform all black. And it's because I've had a kid who wipes everything on me for the last 6 years. And I have a 135-pound Bernese mountain dog that just is a bear walking around my house. So it's like, like once again, it's like, okay, well, I could do all those things, but it's so much easier in like my leggings and a hoodie. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, we want to like put ourselves together and go out, and it's nice to do that. But at the same time, too, it's like, well, that's not like my life. Like, the second, it's like, okay, right. I need to take off this sweater that I'm wearing before I start cooking because I don't want it to get stained. And then you're changing your outfits anyways. Like, I was a person that like I went to work when I was working like in an office. I was like, okay, went to work, came home, and then the second I get home, like, work clothes were off, pajamas or comfies were on. So like it's the same thing. And now that I am at home all the time and all that kind of stuff, like it's just like, well, then comfies are on like 99% of the time because that's just my life. And so yeah, when you see people who are doing something different, and some people love to get dressed up and do their makeup every day and all that kind of stuff, and great, if that's what makes them dance, then like let them do it. But like that's not me. And so it's a matter of finding who actually resonates with you and with who you are and what you embody, and then moving forward from that.
How do you help someone who falls in the self pity and the self wallow because they see things like that, right? They're like, how do they do it? How do they have a family? How do they stay, looking nice all the time? Because we see this stuff, right? People are addicted to their phones, their computers. They're just addicted to like that 10-second entertainment.
I think they don't. I think it's like a distortion of reality. So like a lot of times and so it's breaking down what that reality actually looks like. You know what I mean? Like, and for one person who does it so easily, like I went on a sourdough making journey and I still have my starter. But let me tell you, like sourdough making is not for the faint of heart. And like all these moms who are whipping up sourdough bread every single morning to make a loaf, it takes like 2 days. And I go to bed pretty early and I'm up pretty early. So like to do that, like to honestly make a loaf of sourdough bread, like you have to like really plan like a day or two in advance, like what you're doing. And that's not like my ammo really. And so like it's, I'd love to make fresh bread every day, but like, who has time to do that? Like, who is feeding their starter at like 10 o'clock at nighttime to be ready to go in the morning? Like, that's not me. So it's like, and then who's home for that amount of stretch and pulls and all that kind of stuff? Like, it's like,
I haven't tried the whole sourdough thing just because it's such a process and I don't have time for that.
But it is. And so like, and once again, it's like, okay, right. I'm a mom first. Like, I've built a business around like being a parent so I can volunteer at my daughter's school and all that kind of stuff. But still, I have no time to make sourdough bread. Like I keep on feeding my starter and like every day, but it's like I never get actually to get there. So it's like, it's even saying, okay, well, have you tried that? Do you know how exhausting that is? And if they want to do it, go for it. But yeah, I think number one, it's just grounding people in. Everyone is so conditioned to believe what they see. And that is just not reality. Like, social media is not real. Instagram is not real most of the time. Like the news is not real. So it's like, what actually is going on that actually, who do you know in your circle that actually lives like this? And if there's nobody in your circle that actually lives like this, most likely that's not actually feasible. And the beautiful thing is more and more creators who can do all those things have now openly said, but we have help doing this and we have someone doing this. And, we have, or like both me and my partner do this and we have, help for the kids and, individuals that can come and like do this around the house. So it's like, the more that you know about someone's like reality, it's like, okay, well, it's not as glamorous as the 10-second reel. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not. So I think, yeah, once you actually try to embody it yourself, you learn real fast that it's not that you're not capable of that. It's like, no, that's not it's not reality. Like, even if I had all the time in the world, I'm not baking sourdough bread every single day. Like, it can't happen. Like, I have a life. Like, it's just like I have a bakery here. I can go buy it. Like, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. But like, it's not a reality for me at the moment. Maybe, you know, 10 years down the road, that's a different story. But right now it's like, yeah, okay, these like, all these women are just doing this all the time, and it's just like, yeah, well, if that's your passion and you do it all the time, good on you. But like, I don't have the availability in my schedule to incorporate that. I want to be spent my time differently. So, and once again, going back to what you said, it's a choice. You know what I mean? It's a choice. If you want that lifestyle, then that's your choice. And if it throws you out of alignment and you feel like you don't have your stuff together and you're constantly like hating how you're showing up, then that's not in alignment. Like, it's not, life is not supposed to be difficult and challenging and like, all that kind of stuff. But once again, it's like, well, what does even that lifestyle mean? Like, why are you performing to have what someone else has? Why don't you just define what you want and then just live to that? Everyone, a lot of times, and that's just what we've been programmed and conditioned to, but it's to go with the masses and to conform. And, so the more that we see this unattainable reality, once again, that's not the reality that I choose for myself. If that's the reality that you really want, then create it. Like, you can have it too. And you can have that reality. You just need the proper help. Like, you need the support network. You need all that kind of stuff. So, I don't think there's anything that's like not attainable, but it's more of you have to then also have the awareness of like, okay, I can have that lifestyle. I can, look perfect on a reel and have my makeup done and this and that. And I could do that all the time, but at what cost? Like, do you have a glam team? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like, once again, like, you're not seeing the full scope of what's actually going on. And then you have to create the life that you want for yourself.
And I think too, a lot of people don't think for themselves, like as you mentioned, following like whatever's on the news or the social media or whatever. They don't think for themselves. Like, they don't do their own research. They don't like look into these things. They just see it and then they like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no second thought, which is an issue.
And I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, well, what actually goes into making that all happen? Like, what is that person doing or not doing so they have that time? You know what I mean? Like I said, if you could feed a starter at 10 o'clock at nighttime, great. I'm already asleep by 8 o'clock. So like, it's like one of those things that like, okay, that doesn't work with my lifestyle. It might work with somebody else's, but it doesn't work with mine. Not saying that like you can't do it, but I'm saying it's like, okay, well, I wanted to take that on and I realized really fast, like, this doesn't work with my lifestyle at the moment. And I don't, I'm not changing my sleep patterns to have a fresh loaf of bread.
I looked at it one time. So I was curious because, it's kind of expensive to buy like real sourdough.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, let me see what it's like to make it, right? I looked it up and I was like, no, it's worth paying for all day.
Well, that's the thing. You're just like, okay, like $8 or $10 for a loaf, or like 24 hours of your life. Like, what are you? And you're like, no, I will pay the $8 or $10 for an artisan loaf, then spend the next 36 hours spread over 2 days trying to concoct the same thing. Nope, not doing it. So, yep. Yeah, you get to choose.
And there's a lot of things like that. I'm like, I would rather just pay someone at this point,
Yeah, I mean? And that's okay. And that's the thing. And it's people who think that they need to do it all. Like, we're in this like hyper independent, like, I need to do it all myself sort of thing. And like, we've lost the essence of community. And so it's like, no, like, find something that you love and then, task it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do it all on your own. Like, that's not,
And I think value of time too, like realizing how valuable your time actually is and how much it's actually worth. Because sometimes like, you could have paid for something that took you 10 hours to do for somebody to do it in one. And I don't know, my time's worth a lot more than, a couple $100 for 10 hours of my time back.
But, and like, once again, it's beautiful. Like, I've made loaves and they've turned out delicious. And and there's such a pride in that, like I've created this. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, I choose differently for myself.
Yeah, I like to bake every once in a while, but I'm good on anything that takes that long.
It's true.
Let's talk about you personally a little bit. We talked about your business. So you you have one child, or how many kids do you have?
One daughter.
One daughter? Okay.
Yeah.
And it took a while to conceive.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
A year and a half, wow. And what pushed you to keep going in that year and a half? Like, I mean, that's just beating you down month after month. A lot of people just kind of give up, and it is what it is. And then maybe if it happens later on, or circle back later, but to keep going for a year and a half,
I just did it's sort of like the psychic there. I just did it. No, like I was so, like, I knew that I was just going to try until, like, I'm the type of person that I'll just keep on going until, like, I can't. Like, it's like, like I'm, in, like, and I do that in all aspects of my life. It's like, I will give my all until I just can't anymore. And it's not really like it's truly like, okay, you get to a point and then you just like surrender and you're like, okay, I'm walking away, or, giving up on this. And like, I think to conceive her, it was just, I so desperately at the time wanted to be a mom. And I always had a vision of being a mom. And so there wasn't really, so I mean, that's why I was doing what I thought I needed to do in order to make that happen. So like, I was seeing different doctors and I was doing the fertility clinic and all that kind of stuff. And then we ended up conceiving her naturally anyways. But it was just like, when, like, on that journey, it's just like, okay, like I realized that like my cortisol levels were just so high and I was under so much stress with my old like career, that like I was under so much stress that I was just like, my cortisol levels were through the roof. And so, even the concept of like, okay, managing your cortisol levels and all this kind of stuff, it's like I was constantly taking or incorporating like different things in. So I never really felt like I was like at the end of the road. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like I didn't know I needed to support my adrenals. I had no idea what like managing my cortisol levels and like my central nervous system was. And then when I left that position and when I left that company, I took 3 months off and got my puppy and spent the summer by the pool with the puppy. And then I conceived in the fall. But even in the fall, I was still working with the fertility clinic, and I had like cyst. I have polycystic ovaries and cysts on my uterus and all that kind of stuff. And one of the cysts burst and like damaged my fallopian tube. And so we were like monitoring that, and like, one side was good. And, in the appointment, they were doing like a saline flush. And they noticed on the ultrasound that like my like fallopian tube like healed itself. And there was actually like a follicle dropping from that ovary. And so they said like, go home and like, whatever with your husband. And so I was like, okay. And so like, and then she was conceived, but like, that was a miracle on its own. Like, you know what I mean? And was it because I wasn't as stressed? Was it because my cortisol levels? Was it because somehow my fallopian tube healed like a starfish building another limb? Like I'm not quite sure, but like, yeah, I was just always trying something new, and I just like held that was a reality. Like I never really accepted defeat. And so I just kept on going. But I mean, like, Now, if that didn't happen then, what would have happened? I don't know. But in that moment, I just like, yeah, it wasn't every couple months I was trying something different. Every couple months, like I was in a different space, headspace, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it would never really crossed my mind that I was at the end.
How old is your daughter?
She's 6.
She's 6. So you said you got divorced as well. Like, what led up to that? I mean, after you guys were able to conceive.
I mean, the pandemic brought a lot of different things. And conceiving and through the process, I felt really, really unsupported. And then I started working with a business coach for my own like growth. And one of the first questions that she asked was, what does it look like to be loved the way that you want to be loved? And then I started like unraveling everything. So I was just like, because I was just like, I was trying to find my niche. I was trying to find my community. I was trying to see who I was going to like market to in advertising. And then we got on to, what does it mean to be loved the way that you want to be loved? And then I started just going like in a deep dive in my marriage and myself and my, all of the above. And then, um, March 2020 happened. And then shortly after that, I uncovered something that, pretty much finished our marriage. And, yeah, it was just like, it was like one thing after the next. So like, I was already on this process of like, okay, like, what do I want? And like, how do I want to be loved? And, who am I? And, all the processes. So I started all this reflection. And yeah, like it was just like one event happened after the next. And I uncovered some of those, realities like 2 weeks before her first birthday. And then we decided to separate 2 months after. So yeah, so then, it's divorcing in a pandemic without, when everyone's dealing with their own stuff. So you don't have the same support circles and, there was and everyone was, like I said, navigating their own fears, their own discomforts, their own realities with everything. It was pretty specific up here in Canada or like there was, a lot of mandates in place. So, you couldn't see different people and, there was pretty strict mandates in place. So
You
yeah,
weren't able to escape a lot of things like we can in the United States where we can go to a different state.
yeah, like, like I couldn't work, like, I couldn't, and when I say couldn't work, I could work online, but like, there was no daycares that were open there. And I didn't want to send my daughter for the first time to be with a whole bunch of people and like PPE, like that is not a safe experience for her, never being outside the house. And, like all that kind of stuff. It was just like, no, like I'm gonna, focus on like being a mom first. And then like, even like, trade shows, expos, fairs, like all those things were canceled. And like, I really utilized a lot of those, like, opportunities for like networking and marketing. So it like sort of like replenished every couple of months, like who you're working with and all that kind of stuff. And so that was sort of taken away. So like you're constantly like pivoting and, sort of reinventing like where you're going and what you're doing. So yeah, so that was like the unfurling of that. And then, we stepped into, pretty intense legal battle and custody battle and all that kind of stuff. So that was it
wasn't peaceful at all. It was rough. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, once again, it's like so much happened in a short amount of time, and you just, because life is happening for you, not to you, it's like, okay, right, universe, like I am being like catapulted into my becoming. Like I'm being like, like the universe makes you uncomfortable, so you move. You don't move when you're comfy. So it's like you have to be uncomfortable, and I had to be really uncomfortable, obviously, or I would have stayed. I would have stayed in that relationship. I would have accepted that's how it was going to be, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, no, like the universe literally was just like, no, Lara, we're going to sort of like, uproot your everything that you know about yourself, like, your and like I said, like I always wanted to be like this, like competitive, like growing, like hustle culture. Like I was so in my masculine. And then now I'm like, no, like I just want like a soft, easy life. And like I want to create and, have wildflowers and like have the time to make sourdough bread and like, you know what I mean? Like all the kind of stuff. So like my whole reality, like I was like in this private sector, dealing with the federal government, executive headhunting for our military and our Department of National Defense. Like I was in I was in 100% commission. It was all military. Like, like it was just such a different environment to like where I am now. Like I am a totally different person than I was 5 and 6 years ago. And when I say totally different, the essence of me is still the same, but now I've sort of like broken down all that like unhealed, hyper independent, competitive spirit, needing to climb a corporate ladder or whatever you want to call it. Like that's all gone. Like that hustle culture, that driving, that like, that is all like washed out of me. Like, there's a lot of sales trauma that, I've unraveled and reworked, and yeah, like who I wanted to partner, what life looks like. Like, yeah, I had a totally different vision for my life and myself than I have now. But at the same time, the vision that I have for my life now and what's coming in is what I've always held, but it feels so much more in alignment in my current mental, emotional, and physical state than it ever was before. So it's like I had this idea that this is what I was going to be doing. I just never thought that this was going to be the story that I'm sharing, or that, my experiences, where I'm going. Like, like even performing in romantic relationships, like, whoa, that was a trip to unravel, like in my own healing journey. Like there's just, yeah, like how I show up and who I thought I needed to be and who I actually am, and, all that kind of stuff. Like I truly, I really masked that person. When I say like you don't need to have it polished and all together, I masked a person that did. And the reality was like, you don't have to perform, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to do any of that. You can just be who you are and be kind and, be impeccable. Like you don't have to go down that path. You know what I mean? Like that's not how your self-worth and your, self-value is defined. And that was sort of like there was a lot of like rude awakenings with how I was either like not loving myself, not having any value for myself, and I didn't even see it that way. I just thought that's what you were supposed to do. I thought that's what, society tells you to do, programs you to do. So I had no idea how distorted my thinking was until I started like unraveling like everything and searching for my own truth.
Did anything change like business wise? Like how did you change from, like your guiding, your intuitive guiding? How did that change with the pandemic, right? Everything shuts down. We can't meet in person. You can't go to these expos. You can't network. How did you change and cope with that? And then like, do you only work, like, were you only working with people in Canada near you locally, or was this expanded worldwide?
Like luckily I pivoted all my business online when I gave birth to my daughter. So like, and that was 2019. So I was taking clients while she was napping and like
so in you're those ahead windows. Of the curve.
Yeah. So like, it wasn't as like, it was unfortunate that I didn't have these great hubs of like networking and marketing moments. But at the same time, I was already so virtual. Like I was already, and I mean like, yes, Skype morphed into Zoom and all that kind of stuff. But like I was already still so online that it wasn't like I had to like reinvent or pivot my business. Like my website was already like everything was already through my website, like booking and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was already doing coaching and reading like over online. So like that wasn't as like, okay, everything now has to be online. It was more of like, okay, where do I now need to creatively market myself? Because I don't have those marketing opportunities.
Oh, so it was figuring out the like digital marketing side, right? Rather than the influencing
Yeah.
the events
So,
and stuff.
but yeah. So like I literally took clients, like if she'd be down for an hour nap, like I'd be able to do two readings, or like if she was down by 7, I'd start, reading people at 7:30. So like, it was, so yeah, I really pivoted my business around like her sleep schedules, and then eventually, yeah, like that sort of like all unfurled. But yeah, it was more of a I was already online, so that was pretty easy.
That's good. That's good. That saved you from like a big transition, right? Because I feel like
Yeah.
that was so big during the pandemic. Like many businesses had to shift to like online or they just weren't able to function.
And two, like even in like my business has like pivoted and reinvented itself over the years. Like I was in more HR, so I was doing more career and resumes and interview prep and all that kind of stuff. And then it was just like, okay, well, in that process of career coaching, so many times people are trying to find their life purpose and what actually makes them happy. So what you're actually exploring is them. And so then you're starting to break down all their selves. And so like I was already moving away from like the typical career coaching like industry and doing more intuitive coaching and life coaching. And then yeah, and then the readings and the coaching, it all sort of like, married each other, and here we are now. But I was constantly pivoting, constantly, adjusting what I wanted to do, like what felt right for me in the moment, what still lit me up. And if it didn't light me up, it's like, okay, well, it's sort of just like any service provider. It's like, okay, well, do you want to do it? If so, like this is what it is going to be. And so once again, you're like, okay, well, I can do that, but that's really not fulfilling for me. Like there's no fun in interview prep. Like I love helping people like, find their way, but like there's just, yeah, it doesn't light me up and excite me to do interview prep or resume writing. And now I've been out of that industry for so many years. Like now that I've been out of that industry for, almost like 7.5 years now, it's like, okay, well, I'm not the best person to do all that. So here is where my focus is. So it's even too, it's like changing and updating and sort of revamping things to make sure that what you're offering is in alignment to what still makes you happy and makes you dance.
What do you see for the future for your intuitive guidance?
I have no idea. No, like I mean, like I have a lot of things that are coming down the pipelines. Like like my group coaching containers. Like I'm really excited. I'm really excited for those to launch. I'm launching those this fall, and so like I think there's such a power in community and witnessing one another, and so. I've done a lot of one-on-one work, but now there's just something really intimate about small groups, like intimate groups of people sharing and sort of like, witnessing and taking accountability, with each other. So I'm really looking forward to my like group coaching containers. There's tons of books that I have on the go that I've been writing. Like, like there's just like different stories or different angles. So I mean, between speaking engagements and my group coaching containers and books and, my own deck of cards, maybe eventually one day for readers, like, like there's so many different things. Like now that I'm in this like creative mode, it's like going back to, it's like, okay, well, what else do you want next? Like nothing is not attainable. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything you can do is just, yeah, what do you want to do next? So yeah, sky's the limit.
Do you stay within Canada usually, or do you travel for like the speaking events and stuff too?
Like no, like happy to travel, like totally willing to travel. Because I mean, I mean, really Canada and the US are so similar in everything. So yeah, there's really nothing that's off limits. I mean, I've had clients, coaching clients and readings like all over the world. So yeah, I'm happy to go wherever I'm called.
Have you been anywhere yet outside of Canada?
I mean, like I've traveled personally, but not for work. I mean, like when I've traveled, I've read people where I'm traveled, but yeah, like I've lived in Mexico. I lived for a little bit in the UK. Like I can pretty much go anywhere, but yeah, really. I'm connecting with a lot of people in Australia at the moment. So like, who knows? Like maybe I'm heading over there. Yeah, everything. I'm sort of open to wherever I'm called.
It's pretty amazing with like the technology we have now, like how easy it is to connect with people from all over the world.
Well, I know, like really, like you can have like such a beautiful online community. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's such a like nothing seems far away. Like, like before, like everything's like, okay, like, right, like whatever. And now it's like, oh yeah, like 12 hours, 14 hours time difference, like no problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, like that. Yeah, you can do that. So it's like, time isn't a factor, like, because everything's virtual, like, and, the platforms and technology have come like leaps and bounds. Like, so it's like, there's nothing that you can't do. Like, and even for speaking engagements, now they're doing like holograms and like all that kind of stuff. So it's like, who knows? Like, who knows where life is going to take us? You know what I mean? Like, I could be speaking on a stage, like as a hologram, like, somewhere internationally. Like, you have no idea. I mean, that would be a trip in a good way. But like, you know what I mean? Like that would be cool. But yeah, nothing like really, the world is your oyster. Like, you could really have like nothing is. And I think that too, when people and entrepreneurs or anyone who has a message or is creating something, like your audience is huge. Like, it is beyond what you even think it is. It's like, and so it's like, yeah, your voice, your message, like you could touch people internationally and worldwide. And because of being able to listen and not needing to be live and having recordings and social media platforms and all this kind of stuff, like, really, you're there's no limits to where you can go and who you can reach. And yeah, like, let's go.
I do
Let's
think that's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, right? People embraced that a little bit more.
Yeah. And they did, because that was, and they had such positive experiences with it, like a lot of them, like, you know what I mean? There are some cases that was really difficult, but I mean, most people really, they found a community. And that's the beautiful thing, is you don't have to have, it's still really nice to meet people in person and do those things. You know what I mean? There's something still very, very energizing about having those experiences and talking to people live in the flesh, in person. Like, we're still creatures that need community. And I think it's so imperative for us not to just be 100% virtual. But yeah, but in the middle of it all, like, yeah, you definitely can have that sense of community and belonging remotely.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've now had the last few jobs have all been virtual, and like it was a team of all girls pretty much, except for like the two managers, right? And we all did a girls trip. We had been working together for like, I don't know, like a year and a half at that point, and we did a girls trip, and it was like we knew each other so well. It was so crazy to like meet in person and not feel any different than the video.
I know. I love that.
So it's super cool. I love that that at least was brought out in the pandemic. I do think that there was good things that came out of it. There was a lot of negative, a lot of impact that caused a lot of negativity and the world all over, right? But like there was also some good things, like pushing people to embrace the internet.
And like, the beautiful thing is like, even with that girls trip, you guys still cellularly recognize that it's so fun to still meet in person. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing. It's like, don't let that part like die off. It's like, no, like all you recognize, like, wouldn't it be fun if we were all together, like actually together? And so like, like I think just that alone, like recognizing that and knowing that is like really important and special, and to continue to foster in-person connection as
That's
much
probably
as
just the
online.
extrovert in me. I can't help it. So,
But you know what? I'm more of an introvert and hermit, and let me tell you, it's still so nice to like physically see somebody, because like you're just different. Like you're just, you know what I mean? Like as real as you are, like as comfortable as you are with, all these like different like, online tools. It's like, no. Like there's something still like so special about like getting together in person.
Even an introvert needs to be an extrovert every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like they can't, like it comes out, right? Like my husband's like that. He's very introvert. He'd rather just be a hermit at home most of the time. But like you get him around the right people, he's talking more than everybody else.
I get that. Yeah. I could relate to that. I could be like that. Yeah.
And then me, it doesn't matter who I'm next to. I'm just talking.
But that's good. You guys balance each other. That's important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so to kind of like bring everything to a close, is there something you want to leave, a message you want to leave, something that you want to put out there?
I mean, just that life happens for you, not to you, and that everything is for your highest good, even though you don't have to like it. And truly, like you could be in the mess and still lead. Like you can still, you can still be in your healing and in the rebuilding of yourself and the becoming, but still, empower yourself and empower others. So there's no end journey before you start.
And I know this sits with you very close to your heart because this is the same thing you wrote in the guest like type form.
Oh, in the
So,
form?
yeah, I'm pretty sure I read exactly something similar to that.
Perfect. See,
So
I was just being myself. So
I love it. I love it. Is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover that you wanted to touch base on?
no, I mean, if you feel like you need some guidance, the best way to find me is through my website, which is www.larabokovay.com, or you can just Google me. There's just one and only of me, so that's the best way to connect with me and work with me. But yeah, no, that's everything. It's been lovely to have a conversation with you today.
And I'll add all of your information in the description too, so everybody knows where to find you pretty easily. And thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing how you built your business, because that's huge, right? And then, you shared some more vulnerable parts of your life, which we appreciate. And that you embrace, the messy, which is great. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And until next time, guys, bye.